Staff to the committee. House Bill 1470 relates to private detention facilities. By way of background, in 2021, legislation was enacted related to private detention facility contracts. That legislation defined a private detention facility as a detention facility that is operated by a private, non-governmental, for-profit entity and operating pursuant to a contract or agreement with a federal, state, or local government entity. New private detention facilities were prohibited, and modifications or extensions to existing contracts were prohibited. House Bill 1470 does not amend the definition of a private detention facility and has four primary components. First, it specifies living conditions and standards in private detention facilities. This section has a delayed effective date. It is very detailed, so I'll provide only 3 examples. Commissary foods must be reasonably priced based on the detained person's income. Mental health evaluations must occur at intake and at least once a week, with mental health therapy available, free, and culturally informed. Written and verbal communication must be in the detained person's primary language. The second component of House Bill 1470 addresses inspections. 5 state agencies and local health jurisdictions are required to inspect private detention facilities to identify violations or complaints. The third component of House Bill 1470 creates a private right of action and civil penalties for private detention facilities that fail to comply with state laws. The private right of action allows a person detained in a facility to bring an action in Superior Court for damages. In addition to the private right of action, House Bill 1470 allows the Department of Social and Health Services to specify penalties for failure to comply with the Act, including a potential penalty of $1,000 per violation per day. Either the Department of Social and Health Services or the Attorney General's office may collect the penalty. Finally, House Bill 1470 specifies that a private detention facility operating under a contract with a state or local agency must comply with the Public Records Act, but may rely on the same exemptions as the Department of Corrections to protect a detained person's private medical records from disclosure. That concludes my briefing unless the members have any questions.
Thank you very much. Do members have any questions of staff? We welcome the member from the 21st.
Ranking member, committee members. For the record, Representative Lillian Ortiz from the 21st Legislative District. Mr. Chair, this bill is really about requiring the same standards that we require in our public facilities to any private facility that does work in the state of Washington. Really, what the message is very clear. You do business in the state of Washington, and you must meet people's basic needs and treat them as human beings and meet the standards that we meet in our facilities. Violation of that will not be tolerated. Mr. Chair, one of the
I don't want to be speaker.
I understand.
I have to be babysitter.
Mr. Chair, one of the things that we continue to hear, especially in one specific facility, is an ongoing telling of abuses. A center that continues to have hunger strikes and punish people for having hunger strikes. Mr. Chair, I don't know what it takes to be so desperate that you go on a hunger strike, but people in this center are doing that. And we have been hearing it for years. Not only that, but this particular center knows that we have their eyes on them, and they continue to do this. So my concern is how bold of them to continue to do that which they know we are watching, and what is actually happening in the inside that we can't see, because transparency is not part of this contract. We need to do something different. Our message needs to be clear in the state of Washington. When you come to do business here, we will respect basic needs and everyone's humanity. And that is what this bill is about. I will also say, Mr. Chair, that there were some concerns about some of our youth facilities and local counties and cities. I have met with all of them. There will be an amendment to this bill that addresses all of their concerns. So that will make it a little easier going forward. But thank you for hearing this. Thank you for hearing the voices of so many that carry this burden for our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your passionate testimony. Both you and I have tried to get into that facility and have been denied access. So lack of transparency is the least of it, really. Thank you very much for your testimony. Do any of the members have any questions? Okay, thanks a lot. I know you have to get back to another committee on the private detention facilities, House Bill 1470. So more than 60 individuals have signed up to testify either in person or remotely. We do not have the time to hear all 60 individuals. We will do the best we can. We're going to start a timer now, and I really want all of those who testify to pay attention to the green and yellow and red lights, either in person here or if you are testifying remotely, you'll see a clock in the corner of the video conference screen. So when the light turns yellow, you have 30 seconds, and when the light turns red, we really are going to want you to wrap up your comments. And once again, I apologize in advance, first of all, for the limited time available. Some of you are professionals, you know how to do this. And I also apologize in advance for not necessarily being able to call everyone up today. We'll do the best we can. So on House Bill 1470, we'll begin with those, let's see here, if Jose Cordero is here, and let's see here, Manuel Abrego, Maria Leonidas Perez, and Maru Mora Villalpando. I know there's one at a time. You can come up, or maybe one of you can sit on deck and then testify in whatever order you wish. Again, I'm going to turn on the timer here, and you'll have about 2 minutes each. Make sure to introduce yourself for the record and then proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Goodman and members of the committee. My name is Maria Jose Cordero, and I'm an accredited representative at the Northwest Immigrant Rights Project, and I'm here to testify in support of House Bill 1470. I, along with others at NERP, have represented hundreds of people being held at the Northwest ICE Detention Center. For years, we have heard from our clients about the many poor conditions that they are subjected to while held at the private ICE detention facility. The poor living conditions at the detention center also present challenges in preparing our clients' cases. For example, I represented a Washingtonian who has lived in the Tri-Cities for many years. He struggled with the conditions at the ICE detention center, especially concerning the food that was served. The meals he received from the kitchen were often not fully cooked, lacked nutrients, and even twice, the food was infested with mold and maggots. So he saw himself forced to buy food from the commissary, which was often junk food. However, because he was not getting sufficient calories, he felt like he had two options: buy from the commissary, no matter how unhealthy it was for him, or go hungry. This is something that no one should ever face. Often when we met, my client would understandably be more focused on his health and the food, making it much more difficult to prepare his immigration case. We urge your support for 1470 because no one should live under such a situation, and your support can ensure that Washingtonians held in private detention facilities do not have to continue to experience these conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't know if Maria Perez Leonidas is here.
It's virtual.
It's virtual. Okay, so if you could proceed, and then we'll have her testify.
Yeah.
Chair and members of the committee, my name is Manuel Abrego. I am here today to testify in support of HB 1470. I am a co-director of La Resistencia, an organization dedicated fighting to injustice of detention. I consider myself an expert on detention, not by choice, but as a result of a harmful system. I support HB 1470 because it is dangerous to ignore this bill. On Friday, February 2nd, detainees at the Northwest Detention Center began a hunger strike and joined by over 150 people. Their demands were simple. We want real food, we want real meal times, we want clean spaces, we want adult-sized blankets instead of child-sized blankets. We want appropriate medical services. GEO responded by sending in a tactical unit to shower protesters with tear gas and pepper spray. Detainees have no power and were pushed to brink. They have to use their lives and their wellness to challenge youth in humane treatment. Private detention run facilities can treat people however they want. There is no authority to stop them from serving us rotten food and from giving us dirty clothes. There is no official that stop them from throwing us into solitary confinement as a punishment. There is no authority to stop them from harming us. You have the power to change this. When I was held at the Northwest Detention Center, I organized a hunger strike and demand better conditions. I was thrown in solitary confinement for weeks. I was powerless, and now I am out here asking you to change things. Nobody helped me then, but you can help people in detention now. Don't forget immigrants to use their life as a bargain chip. This bill will make an obligation for privately owned detention facilities to create a safe and healthy environment and provide us with the basic dignity to clean clothes and warm meals. I urge you to vote in favor of HB 1470 to protect Washingtonians in private detentions and to ensure every private facility is held accountable.
Thank you so much, Manuel. That's powerful testimony. Thank you. Please proceed.
Good afternoon. My name is Maru Mora. I'm also a member of La Resistencia. I'm here in support of HB 1470. Our state agencies and local health departments should have the right to inspect unannounced any private detention facilities and ensure that basic public health and safety standards are met. Private detention facilities in our state should not be afraid of being inspected if they are meeting the basic human needs of those under their custody. All Washingtonians should be treated with respect and humanity, especially when in confined spaces with limited access to the outside world. When people are under some agents' custody, those agencies are responsible for those human beings, their welfare, and their lives. Washington State Legislature have listened to our communities and have created standards that protect our most vulnerable communities. Therefore, we must ensure that those basic standards are met anywhere there is a private detention facility in our state. We're asking you for very simple, basic things anyone should have access to in detention. Clean water, clean clothes, edible and nutritious food, no solitary confinement. Is that too much to ask? And the only way to ensure public health and safety standards are really met, it is for that our state and local state agencies have real access to these facilities. We are talking about human beings whose safety is under somebody else's custody. Please vote yes for HB 1470. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent testimony from all of you. Thank you very much. We'll now hear from Maria Leonidas Perez. She will be addressing us in Spanish, and then we will have a translation. Maria, please proceed.
Buenas tardes, miembros del comité. Mi nombre es María Leonidas Pérez, vivo en Kent, Washington, y soy miembro de la Resistencia desde hace más de 3 años, el tiempo que mi hijo lleva detenido en la detención civil de inmigración en Tacoma. Trabajo limpiando casas y le mando dinero para que pueda comer un poco de la comisaría, ya que la comida que da allí es una porquería. Mi hijo tiene 2 enfermedades crónicas y necesita una alimentación nutritiva, no basura. Ahí todo es muy caro, la comida, las comunicaciones, la ropa, etc. Mi hijo ha sufrido COVID 3 veces en detención y van 2 ocasiones que tuvo que irse a segregación para no volverse a enfermar. Ahora lleva más de 2 meses en segregación. Pido que voten sí para la HB 1470 y así nuestras agencias estatales puedan entrar a ese negocio y otros similares para que puedan establecer los estándares humanitarios de vida que deben llevar. Gracias.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Maria Leonidas Perez. I live in Kent, and I have been a member of the Resistance for more than 3 years. The time that my son has been detained in civil immigration detention in Tacoma. I work cleaning houses, and I send him money so he can eat a little from the commissary, since the food that Gio have give is a trash. My son has 2 chronic illness and needs a nutritionist, not junk diet. Everything is very expensive there, food, communications, clothing, etc. My son has suffered from COVID 3 times in detention, and there are 2 occasions that he had to go to the segregation to avoid getting sick again. Now he has been in segregation for more than 2 months. I ask that you vote yes to HB 1470 so all state agencies can get into that business and other likes it, so they can set the humanitarian standards of gift they must have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and please thank Maria for us. Muchas gracias. So let's have those who have some concerns about the bill come forward. If you are present, Jamie Bodden and Lauren Jenks. And I don't know if Juliana Rowe is also here in person. Terrific. All three of them come up together. And then if staff could bring into the video conference Sandra Rodarte and Bernal Baca and Molly Matter. Here we go. Welcome. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Goodman and members of the committee. For the record, Jamie Bodden with the Washington State Association of Local Public Health Officials. I want to be clear, we're supportive of the proposal and concept and the overall goal of the bill, and we appreciate the discussions that we've been able to have with Representative Ortiz self as the bill sponsor. We're here today as other, just to highlight a couple of areas that need clarity and more appropriate delegation of authority. First, we ask for an explicit exemption for local health's ability to implement public health measures to control communicable disease efforts through isolation and quarantine. The exemption exists for the state authority. We just want that to exist at the local level as well. Second, we feel that the Department of Health is the more appropriate agency to an authority to regulate and inspect these facilities. The agency already has similar authority for long-term care and behavioral health facilities, and then they also have a clear line to work with other state agencies on enforcement action. We've spoken with Department of Health. They agree and are supportive of that change. I do want to highlight there's a fiscal note for local government. It reflects the bill's current broad language and the local health directive to implement as it's written. We've drafted some amendments. We've spoken with Representative Ortiz self on those, and with those changes, we are good to support, and our fiscal note essentially goes away. So I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Representative Ramos to take this bill under his wing, if possible. And any amendments, if you could just communicate with Representative Ramos, prepare amendments for executive action. Whoever goes next, Lauren? I was going to say Laurie Jenkins. Did anyone ever confuse you with Laurie Jenkins?
Yes, because she used to work at Department of Health.
That's right. Yeah. Did you have like adjoining cubicles or?
No, once I got her BlackBerry, but I had to return it.
Oh, okay.
And that was a long time ago.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. And for the record, I'm Lauren Jenks, and I'm Assistant Secretary for Environmental Public Health at the Washington State Department of Health. And I'm delighted to provide testimony on House Bill 1470. The bill closes an important gap in authority by clarifying the role of the department in assuring safe and healthy environments for some of our most vulnerable Washington residents. We have met with the sponsor and suggested some technical edits that I can provide to Representative Ramos. And it includes consolidating some of the tasks assigned to ecology and DSHS into local health under the authority of the Department of Health. And it provides some clarity around intended applicability. Like other crucial public health work, this bill would require an investment of state funds to create the health and safety standards, and of course to inspect and then to follow up on any complaints. Since that investment has not been considered in the governor's budget, the department has signed in as other.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Please proceed.
Yeah, good afternoon, Representative Goodman, members of the committee. My name is Juliana Rowe, and I'm here on behalf of the Washington State Association of Counties, also with some concerns. And again, we, just as Jamie and the Department of Health have said, we have been working with the prime sponsor and know that some amendments may be forthcoming, but our specific concern is with regard to Martin Hall, and we hope to have that exempt from this bill. If you don't know what Martin Hall is a juvenile detention facility that is owned and overseen by 9 Eastern Washington counties. So, this has been operating since 1999. The only difference is that it is operated by a private detention company. And so, the reason that they put this regional facility together was because it didn't make sense for all 9 of these counties to have their own juvenile detention facilities. And, fiscally and people-wise, they created the one. And so this bill creates a lot of new operational conditions, inspection requirements, private rights of actions, et cetera, that we just really don't think are applicable to juvenile detention facilities. And we think that actually if the Martin Hall was kept in the bill, that Martin Hall may not be in business any longer. So I'm not going to go any further. I know there are a lot of people to testify, but we hope that Martin Hall can be exempt.
Yeah, we had the same concern about Martin Hall when we passed the previous legislation related to private detention facilities, so we'll definitely take a look at that. So thank you very much to all of you. If Paul Benz and Hannah Werner are here, if you could come, or if you're in the overflow room, please come into the room and sit at the testimony table. But in the meanwhile, we will hear from Sandra Rodarte. Sandra?
Yes, good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Sandra Rodarte. I am the Youth Program Director with Latino Civic Alliance, and we are here today in support of House Bill 1470 because it ensures that a juvenile and all community members in private detention centers receive the appropriate mental health services and cultural relevant services. We are concerned that juveniles incarcerated have a high rates of substance abuse and mental health needs. We want to ensure that private detention corporations have provide professional mental health professionals to have access and serve the needs of youth in the detention centers that are experiencing episodes of injuries, depression, and self-harm, is receiving the care that they are in need. With limited parental involvement and lack of information on the youth mental health history can seriously impact the treatment and places that the juvenile put the juvenile at serious risk. We ask that House Bill 1470 be passed out of committee, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Thank you. Now, my good friend Bernal Baca, if you could turn on your camera.
Yep, I'm on.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Welcome.
Chair Goodman, members of the committee. My name is Bernal Baca. I'm the executive director of Centro in Tacoma. Centro is a social service agency that the community trusts and respects. We're always called upon by families that need help when their family members are held in private detention here in Tacoma. The transparency is horrible in the detention center. We hear about abuses and violations, but have very few avenues or tools to offer the families. This bill adds a layer of transparency that will help our staff navigate the system to help our clients. We support 1470. Thank you, Chair Goodman.
Thanks very much. And I want you to play your guitar for me next time you see me. So, yeah.
Got it.
All right. If Molly Matter, I see you on the teleconference screen. Please proceed.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair and members of the House Committee. My name is Molly Matter, and my testimony is on behalf of Centro as well. Between 2018 and 2021, I served over 300 pro bono hours advocating for the release of children, adults, and the reunification of families. I'm a private human rights attorney, and I'm former chair of the Civil Rights Law section, and our section supported the bill in 2021 that banned for-profit detention centers. Two people come to mind that I just want to bring these stories forward to you. One is a man I met who was a persecuted ethnic minority from Russia, Vadim. I met him a few days into his month-long hunger strike, and I watched him fade into a ghost. He struck in order to get ICE to transfer his aging mother to the Northwest Detention Center. Because of the family separation policy, they were separated. And it worked. Nearing death, they transferred her. He eventually asked to be deported and told me he would rather risk being beaten on the streets in Russia than imprisoned within our American detention centers. At least he would be free. Next, I met a young man from Guatemala, Eldon, who had been sexually and physically assaulted by another detainee within the Northwest Detention Center. He received no care, no services, no mental health checkup. The perpetrator was not moved to a different unit. The multiple incidents were caught on video, and I argued against ICE in immigration court to gain his release. And what struck me about Eldon was his artistry. He was an incredible artist, and he would make these beautiful, intricate sculptures of swans and Disney characters from construction paper and honey that he bought from the commissary. And I'm sure it was how he stayed sane amidst the haunting life of for-profit detention centers. So in conclusion, House Bill 1470 will make sure no one will experience the kind of suffering that Eldon and Vadim have experienced. It's well known that our conditions in the United States are defined as torture, what happens inside private for-profit detention centers. And it's a national shame. And I encourage everyone to move this bill forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Molly. That was difficult to listen to, but it was very important to illustrate what's going on in there. So thank you. I see Paul Benz. I don't know if you want to testify, but come and sit next to Hannah. And Hannah, please proceed. You two will wrap it up. You're professionals. You can do it. Everyone's been doing great within 2 minutes, by the way. So we're doing great.
Good afternoon, Chair Goodman and members of the committee. My name is Hannah Warner, testifying on behalf of Columbia Legal Services in support of House Bill 1470. Courts have made clear that the state can regulate health and safety within private detention facilities, even if the facility has a contract with the federal government, emphasizing that private contractors do not stand on the same footing as the federal government, so states can impose many laws on federal contractors that they could not apply to the federal government itself. Courts have also recognized that states have a vital interest in protecting residents and ensuring minimum conditions are met, such as basic sanitation, nutritious meals, and adequate ventilation and other measures to protect public health. We welcome the opportunity to continue working with stakeholders to ensure we have a strong bill that keeps facilities in our state accountable. We urge this committee to support this bill, and I'm happy to explain anything further. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Paul?
Chair Goodman and Ranking Member Mossbrucker, committee members, I'm Paul Benz, testifying in support of House Bill 1470 on behalf of the Partners for Social Change. We've been working with the prime sponsor, Representative Ortiz self, that will bring about better living conditions and a private right of action for those detained in our private detention centers. This bill creates baseline human rights types of standards, such as clean air, clean clothing, healthy living spaces, and as you've heard, more nutritious food. When private detention centers fail to meet these basic human rights in our state, it's our state's duty to step in and do oversight and accountability. When abuse occurs and it's documented, we need the state to be able to take swift action to enforce these basic health and safety standards. We urge your support of this bill and to move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks to everyone for their testimony. We'll do our very best to move this bill forward. That'll conclude the hearing.